Fantastic.
That's great. Well, you just mentioned that there, Andy, which I didn't know, wasn't aware of, is that you started off in schools. Is that right?
Yeah, so it was got to a stage, funny enough, so Little Golf was really originally started for a bit of a work-life balance. So I was originally based at a golf course, doing junior coaching there. My son Blake was on the way, and as much as working at a golf course environment was fantastic, I was basically working every minute of the sun. And starting Little Golfers working in schools just made it, at the time, it just made a bit of a work-life balance. So my coaching became more during the school day. So I was doing a lot of the extracurricular activities. I was doing breakfast clubs, lunchtime clubs, after school clubs, PE lessons. And when we was at that stage, all schools were part of a school sports partnership. And with the lottery funding that was coming from, obviously from the Olympics, etc., there was just opportunities for kids that they were targeting. Every project had a bit of a target, whether it was obviously like the semi-sporty or girls or kids with, say, behavioural issues. And so Little Golfers very much started using it was the tri-golf equipment, so basically the plastic club and sponge balls. So I would be going into a school, I had a group of kids on a lunchtime, and we were just doing lots of different games. A lot of the school golf that you see is very much like relay races. So you set up an activity, you would have, say 12 to 16 kids in 4 teams, and they run up to a point, they do a golf task to win a point, they collect their ball back, they run back, they high five their partner, and then obviously the next kid goes. So it really, Little Golfers started as that, and it got to a real sort of good stage. I had a few coaches working for me, but I think the best term or school term I ever had, I had 55 schools across sort of Surrey and sort of South London, etc. And it was just obviously fantastic. And then unfortunately, once the Olympics in London in 2012 happened at London, then all the funding started to sort of just disappear with it. So then obviously the business model has sort of changed. So I ended up then going to another golf course, a facility. I still did the schools. The schools was definitely a fantastic feeder and a fantastic pathway. So I kept the schools going for as long as possible. I haven't been able to do it since sort of COVID. So I was still in schools sort of pre-COVID, and it was fantastic because it allowed golf to go to the kids. So rather than waiting for the kids to come to the golf course, it was like, hi, I'm literally at your school and I'm going to be doing this lunchtime session with you. Here's all the equipment. We could play a few games, and obviously if you got to a stage where the kids enjoyed it, then they could go to a golf course and continue their journey. So definitely sort of pre-COVID, I was still working in a few schools, and where I was based back then, there was a little pitch and putt golf course. And what I used to do at the end of each term is invite all the kids that I've been teaching and they're in schools to come to a competition at the golf course. So, it was sort of like, right, here's your little taste on a concrete playing field. So now here's a golf taste at the golf course, and then hopefully then turning them to golfers. And there's definitely been I've definitely seen kids that have gone from a school environment to a golf course environment to are now golfers. And an even funnier stage where I remember teaching a kid who kept coming on a weekly basis for term after term, absolutely loved it, and then still got to a stage where he played golf on a regular basis and was a member of a golf course, but just always loved his breakfast club at his school because it was just with his friends and it was a different type of golf. So rather than seeing it as just a sort of an introduction of golf, and then once you've sort of done that introduction, you sort of then dropped it and went on to proper golf, it was just a different form of golf. So as much as it was with a plastic club, it didn't really matter to them because they were just having fun doing the activities and the games and the relay races. So it wasn't like they had to like do one or the other. They can actually sort of do both. I did really enjoy the school stuff, and it was definitely interesting how every school is a different environment. Every school has different sort of challenges, from obviously like behavior issues. State and private schools, I definitely noticed a change and difference in their approach. I even a few years ago, I even had the opportunity to do some golf at the Children's Trust, which was definitely an eye-opener, obviously for kids that have really had horrific sort of accidents or sort of disabilities that are, you look at what their not able to do. And I went and did a golf session with them, and it was quite an eye opener. You know, it got to a stage. I remember a kid was putting a ball off just the tray on his wheelchair with his carer, and I remember sort of doing the session. I was like, I can't. We're not doing a lot, but because to him he was playing his version of golf. Yeah. The kid absolutely loved it, but to us, I would look at that and like, well, that's not really golf. He's just literally just pushing a ball off a tray and it's just falling down in front of him. But it just had, you know, gave the kid the opportunity to play golf at his level on his terms, and he absolutely loved it. So it was definitely, yeah, I've definitely taught a wide spectrum of kids. A few interesting stories. I've been to pupil referral units, which is definitely an eye opener as well. It's like an unfortunate, like I suppose to put it politely, it's like a child's version of prison. You know, so for those unfortunate kids that have just gone down a bit of a bad path and ended up being expelled from every other school, and it ended up in this unit to help their education, and they obviously got an opportunity to play some golf. So there was, you know, there's not many kids and quite a lot of teachers, and it was just like a little bit of a, again, so every school I've ever been to is just that I've learned something from it. And I think that's probably why I've got to a stage now, you know, 20 years down the line, where I feel very comfortable and confident with junior coaching, just because I've experienced so many different things from different settings and different grounds. And, you know, the school assemblies are always quite fun as well. You know, when you've got like 300 kids in front of you, and then I get the head teacher up to try and hit a shot on a target or something like that. You know, I feel like it's definitely a personality trait. As much as I'm a golf pro, I don't feel I'm a golf pro when I teach the kids. I just feel that I'm just lucky enough that I've got those qualities that I can handle a group of kids, or being in a sort of center stage environment where I don't mind that sort of attention. So when I was doing the school assemblies, I quite enjoyed having all the kids and trying to have a bit of a laugh with them. But, you know, I think to another golf pro that'd be keen to do junior coaching, they may have a different personality trait where they might be a little bit shy or a bit reserved, and they may sort of feel that's a bit
I think you've kind of, you've definitely done the whole spectrum, haven't you, really? You've covered kids within that space, and you've literally gone all ages and abilities, and you've kind of made the most of that experience for them. Like you said, you know, from the child that might have been in the wheelchair, it might have not looked much, but to him it was everything at that time. So yeah, you know, it's about you as a person, really, you as a coach, and saying, well, actually I'm a coach, but I can diversify golf across the spectrum here. And like you mentioned earlier as well, your age range that you tend to prefer is like the 4 to 7s. It's that primary age. It's, you know, it's that age where they are like a sponge and they just do want to be involved. And, you know, I think it's amazing that you've got so much experience that then you can now offer within within Little Golfers and to the children that are coming through as little golfers. What really stood out then was you mentioned that there was obviously golf in schools, and then there was funding that dried up, and there's still like an involvement there. But do you think that there's enough involvement of golf in schools? I know personally, my background is 20 plus years in early years, and I've seen, you know, the Diddy kicks come through. I've seen, you know, the soccer tots, I've seen the baby ballet, all of that kind of thing come through. Whether it's just this area, whether it's just like Cheshire, then again, I mean, I've worked Europe, Middle East. I've never really seen anything come through for golf. And I know in Isaac's school as well, I've kind of said, you know, sent emails off to the head teacher and whatnot, and just said, you know, there's this funding available, or there's this happening at the moment. And I would love to see more golf in schools, particularly in this area. I mean, you're obviously down south. Do you think that there's more access to it in that area? You know, for reasons that you've obviously mentioned, there's funding available for supporting, you know, additional needs and requirements within schools.
Yeah, you know, so I think there's definitely some activities going on. I think as golf pros, we are not aware of the potential possibilities. Like I do know a good junior coach, a guy called Neil Plimmer, basically runs his whole operation in a school environment as well. That what I used to do, he offers golf experiences outside. He does a fantastic job. And obviously schools, I know, have these sort of, so sort of sports premium funding. So obviously they do have funding for PE activities. I just don't think golf pros necessarily are aware or know how to tap into those things. I definitely feel like where my business has gone, obviously my school coaching has sort of dried up because my time has been taken up from the golf studio as well as the coaching. But when I was sort of doing coaching, I did get to a stage where I was doing probably 6 to 7 sessions a week, mainly in sort of lunchtime. Then it just got to a stage where it was mainly sort of the parent funding. But from my experience, the hardest thing was just getting your foot through the door to start with. You know, you can send an email to a school and it just gets deleted. You can try and obviously phone the office, and I think unfortunately golf still has a very strong stereotype behind it. So if I'm phoning up a school secretary and I'm trying to offer golf to their kids, because they only recognize golf as you need a massive amount of space, you're using metal equipment, you're using hard golf balls, there's no physical way that you could run a golf session in a school. It'd be far too dangerous. It just sort of gets shuts off. Once you can get past that barrier to actually explain, like, I can do golf in a tiny little space, I can use it with plastic clubs, I can use sponge balls, there's not a single window that's ever going to get broken. I can make it fun, I can make it inclusive. And once you get through that, it got to a stage with the schools that I ended up coaching before COVID. I had been coaching for like 10 years. It was sort of the funding when it all started got me through the door, which was the easy part, because the school was just part of a project, and it wasn't that I was selling golf to them. It was like, by the way, you're part of this golf project because of this little partnership group. When do you want me to turn up? I can come on a Wednesday lunchtime. And once I got my foot through the door, and then I could obviously then show them that golf can be very different in different settings. And then obviously once that funding had stopped, if I had the opportunity, then I could say, well, actually now we can ask the parents to pay for their child to do it as an extracurricular activity. It was just the hardest thing is just getting yourself through the door in front of the right person. I'd love to be able to sort of send a video to every school in the area and just like a little sort of snapshot of like, this is what golf in a school is. It's not, you need 10 acres of field in the back of your classrooms to be able to hit a ball 300 yards because of the space and need a perfect putting green. You can literally do it anywhere. There's some of the areas that
board.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That we're big fans of your videos.
You can literally do golf with anything and anywhere possible. Some of the sort of locations I had to do my golf activities in the schools, especially some of the younger schools where they obviously don't have a huge amount of space. I remember having to sort of go around a sand pit, and then obviously like I would have like dolls' houses and the little ride on trikes, having to push them out of the way to try and find a bit of space. But then you just find ways. One school in particular, one of their favourite games was hitting the ball on the roof. But the roof had a massive slope.
I enjoy that.
I had to try to hit the house. Yeah.
We literally they're just trying to hit it on the roof, and it was such an achievement to them to hit it onto a roof and it would roll back down or get stuck in the gutter.
Isn't it? You're engaging them in something that is fun, and by doing that, of course, they're going to want to take that further. So I think there's also, once you've got that initial engagement from them, then you've got them. Yeah.
I think there's like a sort of a mischievous element about that, isn't there? In terms of